All right, so welcome everyone. Hope everyone's having an amazing day. And tonight we're going to be focused on goal setting, planning, and keeping. The three distinct, very separate, very important psychologies and psychological programs and steps to creating goals, making sure that you not just set a New Year resolution, for instance, since we're coming up on the end of the year, but that we're actually accomplishing everything that we're setting for ourselves. I run into people all the time who plan well at work, but don't really plan very well for their personal lives, or don't plan all that well in their business. And it begs the question why, and we can go into any number of reasons, most of the time rooted in old view psychology, or the fact that not many people are very good at self-discipline. They're very good in a disciplined setting, or when a boss requires something, when a job requires something, but we don't apply all those same strategies and tools for ourselves. And so I want you to think about tonight and the rest of the month leading up to our new year here. What do you think happens when you really laser focus and intensely emotionalize and feel and take inspired action, all those congruent pieces? What will happen for you? And why does that not work for you? Or do you believe that wouldn't work for you? Do you think, based on past experiences, that if you were to really do this, if you were to really engage these three arenas that I'm going to talk about, setting, planning, and keeping, at the highest capacity, to the best of your abilities, with upgraded software for our Windows 2021 software that we're talking about, would that not work out for you if you to really laser focus, energized, emotionalize, and take inspired action to your goal? So to the individual programs, setting, planning, and keeping, again, very distinct, very important, different, crucial programs that you really want to have down and understand and follow this the way that I'm going to present it, because right off the bat, one of the first things that we find is that in goal setting, which you would think comes first, doesn't really come first for many people, because we have this tendency to really want to know how we're going to accomplish something before we actually set it, and you just write it down on a piece of paper before we decide on something. It's the tool why versus how, which talks about why or the reasons why we're doing something are far more important and must come first before we go into how we do it. The hows always reveal themselves once you have a strong enough purpose, a strong enough meaning. Someone just recently mentioned to me today the Simon Sinek book, which is applicable here. Start with why. So you know this, and this is so very crucial as your first step to setting any goals, that you want to be in the goal setting program. And again, most will do this at work. They'll set the goal and then they'll plan to succeed, but it just doesn't happen for most in their personal life or personal goals. So how do you really do this for your personal life? And picture most people's goal setting drivers. Really, it's they sit down, they think about why they want to do something. They're thinking about, how important is this? Is it just for me? Is it for my family? And sometimes it can be more important or less important for your family versus yourself. Is this just a necessity, or is it something nice to have? Is it something that you don't absolutely need, but maybe would make life a little bit better, make business a little bit better? Again, what's the emotional intensity on nice to have or absolutely must have this? Again, why? Why is this important? And then what happens if you don't do it? What have you really lost? What have you really gained? What if you do it and it fails? What is that place? Again, old you versus new you psychology that is imagined as to what a failure might be. For most, old you equals a high emotional intensity, and the imagination of what can go wrong is, it's the meteor ripping through the ceiling, ripping the picture out of your hands. You'll think of crazy out of this world, most of the time will never happen scenarios as to what might happen, how this could fail for you, how you might spill the milk. And what if you do it and it succeeds? Again, what do you gain? And for old you, how this appears is that it's again something bad, something undesirable might happen. You might be more busy. You imagine your time being taken away, and or the chance that you will fail or have an even greater failure will increase. So these implications for the failures, for the success in an old you psychology most of the time are exaggerated and emotionalized versus new you, versus greatest version of you. You're looking at the success, you're energizing all the things that can go right and things that will get better, and how life will improve, and you're in a towards pattern about what all of these points mean for you and how important it is. And so first, you must have a completed psychological program, and that just means if this happens, then this will happen. That's all that is. And know what that is, and journal on it, and write it down, and get clear on it, and visualize it, and feel it. And you have to have a completed answer and program for each one of these points in your goal setting psychology. Then once this is completed, now you sit down and you begin your planning program. Again, most will go here first and then go to setting, and that's not what we want to do. This is an old you habit. It's an old you tendency. And what's funny about all of this is, we're all doing these tools. You already know this. This is intuitive. This is common sense. It's just that we're doing it in reverse a lot of the time. So we're very good at time traveling to a future place, going into our planning program. And if you can't figure it out, if you can't figure out the how, why even set it? Why even deal with that disappointment or that failure of, committing to something on paper, making the decision? You'll see here, the second point here, not understanding the decide, commit, integrate tool, the fact that you're going to decide, which is really about, cutting off all options. The word decision coming from the root of incision, to make a cut. You're cutting off all options. You're going to commit to that decision. So the common metaphor we like to use is the marriage metaphor. And once a man decides to marry a woman, it doesn't really become a commitment until he not only asks the question, but has the wedding, commits resources, time, you're going to pay for a wedding, you're going to, buy the suit, have the ring, going to say yes. And then really the last step in integration doesn't happen until, the vows are said. And now it's, after the honeymoon, and now you're living together, living life together, creating as a married couple. So another one of these very distinct 3-part processes to how goals are created, how reality is created. So understanding what deciding, committing, and integrating looks like for you in your planning program. And most will do this intellectually, not emotionally, or in a dissociated state. And what that means is there's no excitement to it. There's this planning process is not done with joy, not done with associated great emotions. It's more done in a very IQ, methodical, yes, but just not a very energized state. It's not an enjoyable process, so to now for new you, put great emotions on, and how do I actually put great music on, put great emotions to this, and how do you do that? Well, instead of planning for contingencies and planning with a bunch of anxiety, you plan and envision success. You celebrate, you think of all the things that can go right. And well, if this goes right, what if this goes right? And not about the what could go wrong that we're so used to. Again, we're great at knowing all the ways that we could spill milk to then avoid doing it. But how do you pour carefully? What does that look like? And do you feel the end goal? Do you feel that place when you've achieved it? And this future pacing is done more in a negative space. It's not done in a positive. So time traveling to that future place. And again, it's just not a structure. It's not a software for success. It's more of the don't fail, don't spill. And then finally, we come to goal keeping. So you've gotten clear with your how important is this. You've gotten clear on your why. You've done your great planning program with great emotion. And now in this, integration phase where you're taking action, because this is really what it's all about. It's an action-oriented psychology. It's a completely different animal. And this is where a lot of the tools that we've discussed throughout the year, that we will continue to discuss, apply here. And how do you manage, the fear and the failure that will come with action? It's a law. So as you're taking new actions, as you're out of your comfort zone, fear is rising, failure is rising. It's very counterintuitive. It's not that you reach this, magical place where now all the anxiety in an old you perspective, or all the fear, a highly adrenalized state, goes away, or the failure goes away. And why would you want failure to go away? Because failure is lessons, failures and growth. And that's where these tools really come into play here for goal keeping psychology. So, adrenaline rises. Well, is that anxiety? Is that pump the brakes? Is that I've never been closer to death? Or is it I've never been more alive? This is awesome. I love this. This is what life is supposed to be like. And I love this adrenalized state. It makes me sharp. and it fuels me to even higher and greater places. You know, does that lead to now action becomes, you know, the foot on brake becomes no action, or delay, procrastinate, not now, got to think about it, got to plan some more, you know, not take any more action, because if failure again is evidence that I'm a failure or that this is not good, I don't like this place, typically it'll lead to this inaction state. You know, it becomes this avoid failure strategy that we're so used to. And you really have to understand the get up tool. You know, once you get knocked down, once you experience a failure, it's not that in elite military and Ranger School, they're not looking for the elite or the unbreakable soldier, because those don't exist. They're looking for what happens when you break, because everybody breaks at some point. Do you get up, and do you just not stop getting up en route to collecting your goal? That's it. When you really understand these new equations, when you really design this and load and install this into your new load of software, into your Windows 2021 software that's going to deal with failure, it's going to deal with fear differently than old you, that's where this becomes goal keeping. It's not just, it doesn't just stop with goal setting and goal keeping like it does for most. This requires a software upgrade. It requires having these tools to best manage what's going to happen when you start taking new and different actions. So that's the goal setting, planning, and keeping content. Again, very different, 3 different distinct tool sets and buckets and understandings of software, and some great things to implement into your new software design and your 2020 goal and resolution creation.